official. That's the gavel for today. I'd like to call to order the January 28th, 2025 public hearing for the City of Tampa's Barrio Latino Commission. Welcome everyone. I'm Rich Simmons, Chair of the Commission. If you are here to present a project, you will have limited time to make your presentation, so we just suggest being thorough but concise. When coming to the microphone, you will need to identify yourself and your relationship to the project. The commissioners will not ask any questions during your presentation. Your project should be presented in the following order: site plan, elevations, architectural details, wall sections. Staff presents staff reports. We will then ask for public comment. Please state and spell your name clearly if you're here to speak for or against the project. Your time will be limited to 3 minutes, so we suggest you summarize your comments now. Following public comment, the commissioners will be asking questions in the same order as the presentation. Next, the applicant will have 5 minutes for rebuttal. The public hearing will then be closed. After the public hearing is closed, no further testimony can be given. The commissioners will then discuss the case and make their decision based on Chapter 27 of the City Zone Code of Ordinances, the design guidelines, the Secretary of Interior standards, Historic Preservation Development Review Committee comments, and a testimony given today at this public hearing. The BOC can only act on items that are within our specific jurisdictional responsibility. Owner agents are independently responsible to obtain any appropriate permits and/or approvals. If you haven't already done so, please silence your cell phones. And we'll start with the introduction of my other commissioners, starting on my left.
Susan Claus-Smith. Sorry. Susan Claus-Smith.
Richard Cahill.
Hi, good morning. Chase Corley.
Okay. And from city staff today, we have Dennis Fernandez, Ron Vila, Alexis Guzman, and Dana Crosby Collier from City Legal. Okay, we have in our packet the minutes from the December 17, 2024 meeting.
Move to enter the minutes of the meeting on December 17th, 2024 into the record as currently stands.
Second.
All in favor of said motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Fernandez, announcements for today.
Good morning, Commissioners. Welcome to the first meeting of our year. Wanted to thank the digital media staff for putting together this room today and allowing us to be able to hold our meeting while City Council is using chambers. I do have the December 2024 BLC staff approvals to enter into the record. We will accept those by motion at the conclusion of the hearing. Also in your packets today are our Tampa Bricks and Mortar monthly newsletter that is also available on our website to individuals in the public who care to access that at tampagov.net. We will be doing our preservation in progress this morning. That is our reoccurring educational feature for properties within our historic districts, and Ron will bring that to you.
Good morning, Commissioners and public. Ron Vila. I am a planner with Historic Preservation. Is this on? Seems like it's on. Thank you. So I need to switch over for a minute, and we will start the preservation in progress.
I think you had it before because we could see your hand.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, you have it on. You're going to get it?
Yep.
Thank you. Thank you, Tom.
See, it switched again.
So for January, the preservation in progress
Ron,
is...
I'm sorry to interrupt. I think it got switched again.
It's
on
up
the
there.
back here.
It's going
Not
to
here.
take a couple seconds.
There you go.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
A little delay. Thank you for that, Tom. So this is new construction in Ybor City that this board reviewed and approved a while back, and then now you see the progress of it moving forward. This is the vicinity map showing exactly where it's at. It's on 7th Avenue in Nucio. It takes up the majority of the block. There are 2 other buildings, one contributing and one non-contributing, that complete the block. So it's in between 13th Street, Nucio, 7th Avenue that runs east and west, and 8th Avenue to the north that runs east and west as well. This is the Sanborn map. We like to start with this. to show you the proximity and the fabric that was there in 1929 is the Sanborn map that I like to use as a reference. You see here a lot of the yellow, which indicates frame construction. You know, today we think of Ybor City as the commercial core, which it is. To the east, you see some of the concentration of the period buildings that were made of brick, but where the subject site is, you see the concentration of the residential components speckled in with some of the brick buildings as well. This was the building that came in front of you, the request, and then it came out of the ground. It was new construction, 4 stories. It was a mixed use, residential with retail. There are approximately 125 units that are encompassed in here. There were 2 variances that came along, which are very minor for a project of this size. Usually, you look at a project of this size and it goes forward with a PD. This was able to meet all the city requirements with just these 2 variances here, the reduction of the loading of berth and maneuvering in the right-of-way. As you look at this illustration here, you see the massing, you see some of the articulation that breaks down the scale of the building as it turns the corner with the balconies that are period appropriate, some of the independent balconies and then the larger balconies. And then as it steps towards the contributing structure, the massing steps down to kind of respect that building as well. This is the site plan. As I stated, we have a fairly new building. This was Chancey's building. And then we have the Martin Maceo building that's here. This is a contributing structure. And then the project took form. There was an alley here. It still remains visually open for pedestrian, and this helped bisect the massing of the request as well. Just some drawings here to help. This is the south elevation that faces 7th Avenue. You see the stepping of the building, how it comes down. You see the very period appropriate storefronts at the main level, and then it has an entry on the western corner. As you turn that corner, this is the entry feature that's there. It does have brick, and you see the pairing of the windows, which are also period appropriate, with how it terminates at the top with a parapet. And then the north elevation, this is a little longer elevation, but the reference here was a cigar factory. This is some of the back of the house items that they have. You have to put it somewhere, but it was very sensitively done in this project, and I believe that's one of the reasons it received approval. And just to conclude, how it looks today. So we have 7th Avenue here. We have the contributing structure, and then the new construction, how it kind of steps down to receive it, as I stated. You see the period appropriate balconies here. You see some of the balconies with some canopies on the pedestrian level. This is the gateway as you come into 7th Avenue. As you get to the corner of 7th and Nucio, you have the entrance, like a ceremonial entrance here to receive it. This building has that splayed entrance that's visible within Ybor City as well as those corner elements for site issues. And then as you continue down the block, you have the change in materials as far as the colors go, and then the articulation as well. So this project was reviewed, approved, and it came out of the ground as you guys saw it. So there are some changes, but minor changes, and this is a success for Ybor City. So moving forward with our agenda, we'll get into conflicts of interest and a parte communication.
Good morning, Commissioners. Dana Crosby Collier from your City Attorney's Office. Wondering if any member has a conflict of interest with any item on the agenda this morning?
Do not.
Thank you. And has any member had an ex parte communication regarding any item on the agenda this morning?
I have not.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to swearing, please.
Everybody that wishes to testify, please stand up and raise your right hand, including staff.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you'll be providing today is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Be seated.
So the first case this morning is BLC-25-00000015. This is for the address of 2914 North Nebraska Avenue. Currently, there is a structure there. It was built in 1964. It's non-contributing. The underlying zoning is YC5. 0 setbacks all around the property except for the rear. That is 10 foot. The approximate square footage is 14,000 square foot. The request in front of you this morning, there's 2 variances. We're going to take them independently. Their team knows that they're going to address those. They have 10 minutes. There's a height variance. There's an increase from 45 feet that is allowed by YC5 zoning classification, and they're requesting 48 feet 6 inches. And then there's a parking reduction from 23 parking stalls to 20. However that moves forward, I'll facilitate the meeting, and then to terminate, they have a certificate of appropriateness for new construction for a 3-story mixed-use building with parking in the rear. Moving through the photos. Once again, starting with the 1929 Sanborn map, you see the density here of residential. As I stated, the yellow is frame construction, which really moves towards the residential nature. You do have a brick building across the street. This is a church. It'll show in some more of my photos that I'll show you. This is on Nebraska, is the main corridor that runs north and south. On the corner of St. Clair, Nebraska is the subject site. There is no alley behind this. If you look at the red line, that is the reference for the historic district. So this is on the northwest boundary line of the district. To better illustrate that, this is our vicinity map. The red is the boundaries of the local district. And you see where it's at, it's over here. This is a current aerial. Looking at the subject site on the corner of St. Clair, Nebraska, you do have a convenience store to the north. You have some commercial buildings to the east, and then you have that church as well to the east. Currently, what's on the site is this car wash. It's non-contributing. At any time, they could request for demolition, and staff has the ability to grant this administratively. Looking down Nebraska, this is to the north. To the north, you have a convenience store, which is here. And the church that's across the street is here. You also have to the east, you have some commercial properties. This is looking down Nebraska to the south, to the south, back into Ybor City. And just to show you, on the corner of Nebraska and St. Clair, this is looking down St. Clair that dead ends into the interstate. That concludes the photo presentation. At this time, I'll have the agent address the council.
Point of order, Ron.
Yes, sir.
Since we're doing a variance, they have 2 different variances. They get 20 minutes total, 10 minutes for each, or 10 minutes total?
I believe I talked to their legal advisor. They're going to do it in 10-minute segments. They're going to do a presentation, hold it at 10 minutes, then you'll have discussion, motion, and then they'll look at the other.
Okay, great, thank you.
Will we be able to switch the projector so we can?
You want the PowerPoint?
Yes, please.
Okay. You got to get a couple seconds.
All right.
Not quite ready.
Let me know when you can see that.
That one goes, it's a little delay. Give it 5 more seconds. There we go.
Thank you.
It's ready for you.
Thank you. Okay. Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Thad Baraday. My company is Urban Reworks and Urban Auto Works. We are the owner and the applicant for the project here at 2914 North Nebraska. My job is to introduce myself and the team who will be speaking today. We have Colin Rice from the Older Lundy Law Firm who will be going through our variances at the outset. And then we have our design team from Design Styles Architecture, Andy Doman and Roger Anderson. Like my company, DSA is a local firm based in VM Ybor, but they recently created a national footprint by merging with a larger company, Mancini, so congratulate them on that. They've been wonderful partners and part of a wonderful team to bring this project before you today, which we hope is truly transformative and indicative of the quality of the neighborhood that we enjoy in VM Ybor. VM Ybor is an often overlooked community. As I travel around Tampa and talk about Ybor, everyone's like, oh yeah, Ybor City, it's great. But they often don't appreciate the unique characteristics and qualities of VM Ybor, north of I-4, east of I-275, that make the neighborhood so important when it was bifurcated and separated from the rest of community by the imposition of those expressways. Our mission and journey at Urban Reworks is to help redeem and reclaim not only the property that we're bringing to you today at 2914 North Nebraska, but indeed the larger community, and particularly the neighborhood of VM Ybor. Our company started when we bought some historic bungalows along East St. Clair. The map that Mr. Vila just showed you includes our properties there, and we have executed a beautiful, historic, appropriate renovation with working with historic preservation staff, and we're very grateful for their support and grateful for your leadership to preserve the historic character and integrity of our community. So I'd encourage members of the commission to drive by East St. Clair and see the work that we've done there, which is hopefully the first step in the broader reclamation and transformation of VM Ybor that I mentioned. But as I looked down the street, the view that we saw was not the beautiful surfboard-inspired building that you saw there. It was a dilapidated, blighted commercial car wash that was state-of-the-art when it was built in 1965, but had fallen into disrepair over the last 50, 60 years. We decided, we engaged in a listening journey and wanted to understand what was the highest and best use of this property. We've worked extensively with City of Tampa leaders, the neighborhood associations, our neighbors in the community, ministries, and the number one crisis facing our community is affordable housing. So what we're bringing you today is a 20-unit, mixed-use, affordable housing project with the all-important street activation along North Nebraska Avenue, retail on the first level, which my company will occupy, to provide on-site property management and ensure the success and integration of this project into the community. We're neighbors, we're not going anywhere, so we're here to stay, and we're gonna make this a very successful first step in the ongoing long-term transformation of the VM Ybor neighborhood. Anyone who knows Nebraska Avenue knows that we suffer a challenge of homelessness in our community. Some might look at Nebraska and say it is the epicenter of homelessness. I know that's beyond the commission's purview, but I'm going to quote Antoinette Hayes Triplett, the CEO of THEA, which is the lead agency addressing homelessness in our community. The solution to homelessness is affordable housing, and affordable housing is the number one challenge facing our community. This will be a very exciting and first step affordable housing project targeting workforce housing for first responders, school teachers, healthcare workers, and other working class people who can't find housing today. We hope you remember that as you look at the very exciting design and characteristics that we've created to create what will be a beautiful asset and the most important investment in this stretch of Nebraska in decades. Thank you for your support.
Good morning, Colin Rice with the law firm of Volta Lundy, 1000 West Cass. I appreciate Mr. Baraday providing some of that context for you. I'm going to first address our parking variance, which will go through deliberation and vote and rebuttal, and then we'll pivot to height and then the certificate of appropriateness. So Mr. Baraday did a wonderful job of framing the importance of this type of project. I'm here to speak specifically about the parking. All right, I got you. Thank you. So just to orient you, and I know that Ron had shared some visuals. Again, we're on East St. Clair in Nebraska. This is the Nebraska corridor. We're very close to transit, which I'll touch on briefly. And again, the aging car wash. So this is a depiction of the parking configuration itself. We are under the YC5 zoning standards required to have one parking space per unit, and with the just under 1,000 square foot retail component, 3 total spaces. So this is the composition of how we get to 23. In blue here, you can see 2 on-street spaces are being provided. I know those don't count towards a total, but it's helpful for your consideration. So everybody's favorite part, I'm going to run through all the 6 variance criteria here. So this is a unique and singular project, as Mr. Baraday had alluded at the beginning. There's a dire need for affordable housing, and it takes some ambition and some public-private partnership to make this happen, particularly in this part of Ybor. We're proud to have earned the support of our neighbors. We have 31 letters of support that I'll be submitting to the record. 32, rather. We got one today. So I'll get into the comprehensive plan nitty-gritty briefly, but we are electing here to calculate density based on floor area ratio. We have some favorable and unique characteristics that give us the election of using this tool specifically in the comprehensive plan. So it's an FAR-based calculation, which is departed from individual unit count. So it's not a unit per acre count. That's how we get to 20. That's how we're able to provide these at an affordable rate. So the second criteria, this is not self-created in that, our team in addressing this need did not draft this portion of the comprehensive plan. We're in CMU 35. Again, we can, within the Ybor Historic District and the future land use designation, choose floor area ratio. We're not even near our allotted cap, but because we have slightly smaller units, the number has increased. That's where you get your 20 unit count from. So the variance won't substantially interfere with the health, safety, welfare of the neighborhood. Again, we have 32 letters of support. This was a noticed request, so we've been very engaged with the community, very engaged with staff. Importantly, we are very close to, we're about 200 feet from a HART transit stop. There's bicycle parking on site. There have been significant efforts to mitigate the need for vehicular use. This all dovetails directly with the comprehensive plan as well. So section 4, I want to read, and again, I have exhaustive written submittals in the record. I won't belabor the specific citations. They are there if you have questions. But one I want to point out specifically is mobility policy 1.9.2, promote reduced parking requirements for areas served by high-frequency transit. Again, we're 200 feet from a HART stop, so we've certainly met that criteria. The comprehensive plan is chock full of encouragement for affordable housing. And in achieving an ambitious project like this, it's incumbent upon the applicant, staff, and the voting board to consider all factors here. And I think we've done a good job of that. So in terms of the substantial justice being done, this is a 13% reduction. It's pretty modest in the scheme of things. We can't dimensionally fit more spaces on this site, particularly with the comprehensive plan encouraging building envelopes to the setback towards the corridor. There isn't extra or open space. We've allotted the maximum amount of compact possible to this site. And again, we're providing bike parking. There's scooter charging infrastructure considered, and again, nearby transit options. And lastly, we have our design team here. If you have questions about the design standards, we're committed to fulfilling all the conditions within the staff report for the certificate of appropriateness. That has been found consistent. We're grateful for that. So I think we're at time. So I will conclude our presentation for variance 1 on the parking, and will be available at the appropriate time for questions.
Good morning, Commissioner. Ron Vita, staff. I'm with Historic Preservation. I'm a planner. The substantial and competent evidence was input into the record this morning. You have the information in front of you. I would review the 6 criteria and move forward. Staff does not comment on the variances. I would request that they put the site plan on the monitors, which is here, and then have that discussion moving forward. Thank you.
Okay, is anyone here from the public wishing to comment on this case? Please identify yourself and come to the mic. Seeing none. We go fast in this room today. Sir, please.
Hello, everybody. My name is Albert Cook. I live in VM Ybor, and I've lived there for 23 years. A couple of years ago, I met Thad Baraday. He's the owner of these businesses, and he purchased 2 homes on my block, actually one next to me and one across the street from me. The history of VME Board, I was very concerned about what he was going to put there. So he told me what he was going to do, and here it is 2 years later, and he did what he said he was going to do. 2 beautifully refurbished homes that we're proud to have on my block, and of course I'm happy because my equity in my home has gone up. He also purchased this car wash, which I was shocked. But after he took over the car wash, he cleaned it up, properly put lights in, everything painted. It's beautiful. And it's actually doing pretty good business from what I've seen 10 years ago. He wants to put affordable housing there. I'm excited by it. That car wash is maybe 150 feet from my home. I'm happy to see new construction there, affordable homes. This is what we need in our neighborhood. We want to keep our people in our neighborhood. And one of the ways we can do it is having affordable homes and affordable housing. Because his properties surround my home, I'm excited to have these changes to our neighborhood, and I'm excited to have Thad be part of our neighborhood associations. He's also made presentations to all the necessary or all the neighboring neighborhood associations. I've seen his presentations at Ybor Heights Neighborhood Association as well as VM Ybor Neighborhood Association. He is the best neighbor I've ever had. And everybody who owns a home, you've had the worst neighbor and you've had the best neighbor. Thad is the best neighbor I've had. And that's the end of what I have to say. I hope I was influential in this program or this permit change or building of this property. We really need it, and thanks for your time. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Good morning. My name is Alan Dobbs with Florida Design Studio. I thought the public response was going to be after the whole presentation was done. So is this just for the variance?
This is just for the variance at this point.
Okay.
For the parking variance.
Right, okay, so then I'll just focus on the parking. I live in Seminole Heights, I've lived there for over 30 years, and I was part of the team that helped rezone Seminole Heights to the form-based zoning code, and one of the things with that was how to incorporate parking and reduce parking requirements to encourage, appropriate development. And this is definitely appropriate development. So I think the reduced parking is justified, especially considering it will allow an amazing project to help, transform this area, and also, providing parking. Like, for example, Seminole Heights has so many bike parking spaces equals 1 car, so many scooter and motorcycle parking spaces equal 1 car. So I encourage you to support, or I support this and encourage you to vote positive for it. Thank you.
Anyone else from the public wishing to comment? Okay. We're going to go ahead and ask some questions of the applicant. Chase, you want to start?
I'm still looking through this packet clearly. Is there a lighting on each parking space? I'm just curious,
So this is under the structure. So these sit directly below the second level units. So yes, there's lighting at structured parking.
Okay, thank you.
I have no questions.
Has transportation reviewed this plan yet?
Good morning, Ron Vila. With all projects that come forward, we have a group of reviewers. We have transportation, we have solid waste, we have natural resources, and we have zoning that collaboratively look at the project. It would not get to this level if they didn't support it. There's no objections that are related to the parking at this time.
Thank you. That's my only question.
Go ahead.
I have no questions.
I just have one question with the trash enclosure that's there. It looked like maybe you can get 1 more space there or 2, but I assume that went through the city and that's an approved enclosure that they want there.
There's a couple issues when you review a site plan. Solid waste has their criteria that must be met, and transportation has theirs. As you come into the parcel, I'm not a transportation expert, but there's always a setback dimension that they want for safety reasons. So to pull into that first space might be challenging. So the plan that is up here was reviewed and approved. Yeah.
Great. And to clarify from the applicant, there is no alley on the west side. You have a 10-foot setback there, right?
Yes, and that is met.
And that's met, and that's going to be your landscape buffer as well?
Correct.
On that side? Okay. Okay. I have no other any questions? Anyone else? You have a few minutes if you'd like to summarize your comments or rebut any of the questions that we asked, and we'll close the public hearing.
Colin Rice again, 1000 West Cass Street. I'll take this opportunity to supply the 32 records, or letters for the record. I'll hand these to Mr. Vila. So again, we have no opposition, no concerns. This project has evolved considerably. It's been a long time coming. We're really proud of where it is. I have nothing further. We respectfully request your approval at this stage so the next two requests can proceed.
Okay, great, thank you. We're going to go ahead and close the public hearing, and we can have discussion on the case, starting with Ms. Laga.
Are these on?
They're always
They're always
They're
on.
always on, okay. I would just like to comment that I thought the development of the parking plan for this has been done in such a sensitive way and in such a considerate way for the neighborhood, and working hard to get as many spaces as they possibly could squeeze out of the limited confine. I remember in the past that in the historic districts, sometimes there was a 10% waive on the parking requirement. Is that in effect in this area?
Well, hold on. Yeah, we're asking a question, so we're on discussion. So, I mean,
Never mind.
Move to reopen the public hearing.
No, never mind.
No? Okay.
Yeah, that's okay. I'll clarify it later. But nonetheless, I'm strongly supportive of this, the approval of this variance.
I have no comments. I agree.
Who's the neighbor on the Clare Street? What structure sits adjacent?
we're not asking questions.
No, we're not.
Yeah, public hearing's closed.
All right. I think it's great. Proximity to Hart, affordable housing, transportation, vehicles are needed.
Yeah, just to put it simply, this is a great project.
Okay. Yeah, I think the applicant has done a very nice job here of getting everything they can on the site. It's completely packed. I think it's a good balance here. I think we've seen some other cases that maybe have too many residential units and can't support the parking, but this one has a nice balance. It's a minor 13% reduction. They've taken every effort to maximize the site here, and I think it's just having the two on-street parking kind of count in my mind. I know they don't count on paper, but I think that certainly helps. So a 13% reduction. I think the hardship criteria, the 6 hardship criteria, have been met and properly documented. So I have no issues moving forward with this variance. Anyone feel for a motion?
Move that the variance request for case BLC, sorry, too many pieces of paper here. BLC 25-000015 for the property located at 2914 North Nebraska Avenue be granted as depicted on the site plan presented at the public hearing for a parking reduction from 23 to 20 spaces based upon the petitioner meeting the burden of proof with regard to the 6 hardship criteria set forth in Chapter 27, Section 27-96, subsection D of the City of Tampa Code of Ordinances for granting variances as stated in the evidence provided in the public hearing, specifically that excuse me, it is consistent with the Ybor City design guidelines and the comprehensive plan for the City of Tampa.
A second.
All in favor of said variance? approval, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations. And we'll move on to the height.
All right, I'm back. Colin Rice again, 1000 West Cass. Thank you. All right, moving to the height variance. So showing you an elevation of the property that depicts the specific ask here. A core point here is to understand that the primary structure itself is below the height limitation. So the top of the actual building is at 42 feet. YC5 has a height limitation of 45 feet. We're below that. The section here in blue, can you see my cursor? This is what we're talking about. So this projects 3.5 feet above that 45 feet. So the total request is to go from 45 to 48.6. And what this is a shade amenity for a community gathering space. This is a rooftop trellis. What you'll see in a lot of market rate housing projects is the ability to afford community gathering space. This is supported by the comprehensive plan. This is an important amenity. And because our team is so committed to providing a good place to live for this community, it's important to have this community gathering space. But to draw on our presentation from variance number 1, we have severe dimensional limitations and the encouragement to reach your setbacks, to be biased towards the streetscape. There just isn't anywhere to put this except for the roof. So that's the genesis of this request, is to have a shade amenity on the roof for the residents. And again, it's because of the novel nature of this affordable housing project, it's unique in that there's not a lot of this happening on this part of Ybor. Again, space efficiency being paramount here. So again, I want to highlight some of the sections of 27-158 that speak to height generally throughout the city of Tampa. So you have your typical structural height limitations as prescribed by your zoning district, and then you have things that are allowed to be higher. I'll read some of these to you. These are all permitted projections above the height limitation. Penthouses, roof structures for housing elevators, stairways, tanks, ventilating fans, solar energy collectors, chimneys, religious assembly spires, steeples, belfries, I don't know what a belfry is, cupolas, domes, monuments, widows' walks, water towers, skylights, flagpoles, vents. These can all be above 45 feet. We're asking for a shade amenity. It's architecturally consistent. Our design team has done a wonderful job ensuring that this feature is an additive visual element to the overall project. So we've taken care also to bias this feature away from the residential neighbors and towards the commercial corridor. It represents less than 10% of the overall rooftop area. It is open air. So we're not concerned about general health, safety, welfare concerns. Again, this was a notice request. We have round support. Again, to go back to the comprehensive plan, this is squarely consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of our comprehensive plan, particularly because of the interest in biasing towards the side setbacks and encouraging community gathering space. This is the only spot we have. So the substantial justice component, the benefit to these residents is enormous, and we're not aware of any concern about this installation. So we think that this has easily been met. And then criteria 6, our team is more than capable of speaking to the design elements here. Again, we have a consistent finding. We'll meet all conditions on the certificate of appropriateness. But just to go back to the visual, again, to frame for you, the building is compliant. This blue is all we're talking about here. So I will conclude, happy to answer questions at the appropriate time. We respectfully request your approval.
Ron Gila, staff for Historic Preservation. I believe there's some additional renderings that they could share with you at this point to show how that trellis engages with the overall project. And I think it would be beneficial for them to show it at this time.
Do an exterior. There you go. Great.
Okay. Okay. We're going to move on to public comment. Anyone here from the public wishing to comment on this variance request, please identify yourself and come to the mic, Mr. Dobbs.
Good morning, my name's Alan Dobbs with Florida Design Studio. I've been working with that for a couple of years with those projects on St. Clair, so I think I want to reinforce, what a fantastic project this is to help change this neighborhood. But I did want to point out a couple things on the height. Typically within the city of Tampa in the past, anything less than 10 or 15% has been administratively approved, but I understand the formality of having to go through it before this board. But I wanted to point out a couple other things. There's basically a minimal increase, but it does meet the intent of the code. And the rooftop amenities basically allow this project to be more feasible because a project like this does need certain amenities, because you have a lot of units in a relatively little space, which is a pretty amazing job how they designed it. And then, I just wanted to voice my support for this project. I think it's going to be great for the neighborhood, and I think the height variance is, considering the main mass of the building does meet the height. I think it's worth approval. Thank you.
Anyone else from the public wishing to comment? Seeing none? Okay. We'll start with some questions of the applicant. Ms. Levin?
No questions.
I have none.
I'm good, thank you.
No questions from me, thank you.
Good. Okay, I have got a few.
Okay.
Could we pull up I think it'd be important during this presentation to see a roof plan and actually see the area of the trellis there. I think you said 10%. It kind of looks like it's about 10%. I just want to make sure there's no other amenities up there. You guys aren't putting a pool up there or a jazz club or anything like that.
Jazz club, I'm coming.
We could condition a jazz club. No, this is it. So you can see here, Colin Rice again, I'm sorry, 1000 West Cass Street. The green depicted here is the rooftop amenity. And so just a rendering of what the gathering space could look like. That's it. It's mechanical equipment, stair housing. It's no other amenity space.
Okay. So it's just like a sitting area. You're not. Do you have
Right.
a sink up there or anything like that? Plumbing?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. Okay. Cool. And that trellis, I guess when you go back to the elevations, is that? And one other comment on that, and we can talk about that during the CA, is I like how the elevator override is set back. It's not in the front. From the front elevation, it looks like it's right up front, but it's really pushed back. So the trellis goes all the way to the edge of the building. It's not stepped back at all.
Hi, my name is Andy Dome, and I'm the studio director for the Tampa studio at Design Styles, now Mancini. I think just to go, Sharif, when we have our rooftop deck plan, tell me where that is. There's columns on the building. I'm not sure how to zoom in on this, but there's columns on the rooftop deck, and then the cantilever piece is no greater than the parapet wall that's below.
Okay.
So, but
And
the
that's
columns are not on the edge of the building. They're further in.
And you guys kind of have a thickened parapet edge
Yes.
there, it looks like,
Yeah, with the cornice
separate
on
the
the top.
third level from the
Yes.
rooftop level.
Correct.
All right, so it's inside of that, but
Correct.
probably aligned with the building
Correct.
edge. Okay.
There you can see where it is from the side view. You can see where the column is in the edge of the awning, the roof trellis.
Okay, okay, Good. No, that's respectful. You know, I think it's just one of those things where if you're going all the way to the edge, you know, it's easy enough to step back a little
Correct.
bit. And I think you've done that with a lot of your other elements here. I just want to verify that. I don't have any other questions. Okay. As the applicant, you guys have 5 minutes for rebuttal or summary before we move to close the public hearing.
Nothing further. We appreciate your support. We appreciate the community and staff for all their hard work helping get us here, and thank you again.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, just one point. In the past, for similar variances, in that the board does have the ability to place reasonable conditions on variances. One that's been applied in this situation is a condition that the area that you potentially are granting a variance for cannot be enclosed in the future because they are presenting an open air solution. The variance is for height, so it may be a point that you want to discuss as well.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point. Well, I think a couple of conditions I'm thinking about is making sure that that trellis is going to be stepped back from the building line so it's inset, not being able to enclose it. I think it's, you know, my concern, this is it's a commercial property, but it's a residential area, so I'm a little concerned that, you know, amplified music, something that we face in Ybor all the time, becomes a problem, and I think the owner is very sensitive to neighborhood and has worked with them, so I don't think it's going to turn into a club or anything like that. The jazz club, maybe. Be there, but.
I'll bring my piano.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and close the public hearing now, and we can have discussion of this case amongst ourselves.
No comments.
Other than the comments already made in terms of adding some conditions, I think this is acceptable.
Yeah, same way. No comment.
Yeah, no comments from me, thank you.
Yeah, I think this is a minor 3'6" over the proposed allowable building height. I think the applicant has done a really good job of actually having the building height well below. The roof line is down at 38. This is a nice amenity. They've optimized the site to get parking and have a good commercial edge and transition to the residential neighborhoods. They've kind of run out of property, so I think that having a nice amenity for the residents there makes a lot of sense. A couple of conditions that Mr. Fernandez has, that the structure cannot be enclosed in the future, and that the trellis needs to be within the building line would be acceptable. So, yeah, I think it's an appropriate extension. Are we ready for motion?
Everybody's okay? Move that the variance request for case BLC 25-000015 for the property located at 2914 North Nebraska Avenue, as depicted on the site plan presented at the public hearing for a structure height increase from 45 feet 0 inches to 48 feet 6 inches, be granted with the following conditions: that the open air trellis area is the only area that is allowed this condition, that the open air trellis area not be enclosed in the future, and that the line of the open air trellis area or feature not be beyond the building envelope outline as presented at this hearing and shown on the site plan and other plans depicted today. Because based upon the petitioner meeting the burden of proof with regard to the 6 hardship criteria set forth in Chapter 27, Section 27-96, subsection D of the City of Tampa Code of Ordinances for granting variances as stated, and the evidence provided in this public hearing, specifically that the project as presented aligns with the Ybor City design guidance, specifically to the facade width, the setbacks, and the alignment and similarity of details and forms.
Second.
Okay. All in favor of said motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries for the variance request. Congratulations.
He should have acknowledged the conditions.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Before we make that final, there's been 3 conditions placed on this application. Can the applicant acknowledge that they are in agreement with these conditions?
Colin Rice for the applicant, we are agreeing.
Okay, thank you for doing that. And we don't need to revote.
Nope.
Good, just stipulate that. Okay, thank you. All right, and now we'll move on to the fun stuff. Certificate of appropriateness.
So my name is Andy Dolman again, running the Tampa studio here in Tampa. And with me I have Roger Anderson, who's running the commercial department within our studio. Thank you very much for the approvals of the variance. We greatly appreciate it. We've been working with Ron and Dennis for quite some time, and Thad and the group. Ron has given us some guidance on elements to look for in the community, and I think to everyone's hard work, I'm very happy about this project. Today, we're just going to go through the certificate of appropriateness, and I think to everyone's now realizing it is an affordable housing project. Our amenities are we've got the benefit of having a retail space on the ground floor. We now have the rooftop deck, providing electrical storage for electric bikes and charging stations and some closets and whatnot for added storage in the individual apartments. So I greatly appreciate that. I'm going to have Roger kind of go through some of these elements that we've gone through methodically to show you what we've done to achieve their certificate of appropriateness. And with that, Roger, I'll let you take it off and kind of go through some of these slides.
Good morning. Roger Anderson. I'm an architect with Mancini DSA, as we merged to Mancini. I'm the studio director and head of commercial with DSA Mancini. I've been assisted by my teammate here as well, and our team within DSA Mancini to deliver this project. I want to talk a little bit about the drivers that was put forth, and some of you heard already, but I want to echo this and make sure that it is part of our conversation here. We set out to do a project that extended the historic character of Ybor City into this area, where currently it is lacking. There is little reference to the historic character in this. So our attempt of this building is to align that and create that genesis that maybe grows that historic district in this part of Nebraska. Our other driver was an efficient, cost-effective building that was developable. So we want to be able to work with our developer to make something that hits his price point to allow this to get built for workforce housing. The other focus was really creating a civic building, creating a building that had street activation, that encouraged the walkability within our communities. And you see that within our design as I'll go through. And the last is that we were very fortunate to have not only our design team, but the support of Ron Vila going through this to direct and guide us. Ron, we really appreciate your support and input on this. His team has been excellent in guiding, and we have done our best to align with every comment that was brought forward to us. So I'm going to start with the site plan here and go through a series of our floor plans, elevations, floor plans, some of our inspiration, and get into some of the building materials that we are looking to incorporate into this project. So on the site plan here, as we dial into this, we radiated our site plan with some of the elements that we look to incorporate here. So within our site, we are adding a 6-foot fence at the property edge. This is a 6-foot wooden fence that provides a portion of our screening of our parking and our buffer, and incorporates the landscape buffer internal to it. We are screening our dumpster enclosure with a metal gate. These will be maintained and closed so the dumpster is not visible. It is surrounded by a CMU block wall, which has a stucco finish on it, a sand finish on that. And the finish of that dumpster enclosure will be in alignment with the finish of the building. We are also incorporating pavers along the retail portion of the project, which is in the south right corner. These pavers we are looking to align this with the Ybor standard. We are open to discussion on that, but currently we understand that to be a hexagon. We may also want to consider a herringbone rectilinear paver, but we want that to align within the Ybor district. We are incorporating windows and doors that are in keeping with the residential look within the neighborhood. So we are, a fixed door with one door swinging so that you can actually access the balconies. And as mentioned, adjacent, we have a retail component, which is about 950 square feet, which would provide tentatively for an office space for Thad's business, but would also support additional retail in the future. Adjacent to that is a storage room, which we indicated storage, but our thought is that would house scooter charging or bike charging areas to keep those secure out of the public eye. Those bikes can be a little expensive. And we wanted to create an area where they could be centrally charged. It's an image you have here in the top right. As it was indicated, we have a roof terrace. You've seen images of this. This roof terrace is intended to be a community gathering area. We feel that's a great part of this building. We also think it's also part of the street activation, as you see activity at the ground level and you see activity at the top. This is considered to be a sitting and gathering area. There are no amenities up here for as far as a sink or a grill or anything. It is really just meant to be a seating area with shading. We know that shading is critical, so we really look to do a trellis with a shading element on it and incorporate some nicer materials up there as a wood look paver or a concrete paver to provide a durable and lasting environment. Now on to the elevations. We are in alignment with the Ybor City colors. What you're seeing here in the lighter color, which looks as lighter gray, we're looking to make that the off-white of the Ybor standard color. The darker color is the Ybor gray, and it also provides an opportunity for us to maybe add depth to this building. And depth also creates sort of a richness to the design. So the area that you see that is a darker gray has been set back about 6 inches to create just this variation in depth and shadow on the building. And that's just what we try to do as architects to try to create some thickness to the project. The railings, the windows, and the doors will be a Ybor. It's going to be a black or a dark bronze. It's our intent to align. The balcony railings are metal railings, vertical pickets. The balconies themselves will be structured off the building. They'll still be steel balconies, concrete pan filled. And we have really looked at this from all 4 sides. If you look at this, we have the east and west elevation here. So the street elevation is on your right. You have the ground level retail. We have incorporated planting along the perimeter of retail to a slight buffer from traffic. We've also incorporated the opportunity to do planters along Nebraska Avenue, and we planted along the fence line on the north side of the property. On the west side, which faces the current neighborhood, we've provided a below building parking. This is not seen from Nebraska Avenue and is screened on site. Within that, there is lighting, not only in the ceiling, but also along the wall with wayfinding lighting. We have balconies incorporated at level 2, and also we have a small step-out balcony on the upper level. So every unit in this plan has a balcony, a door to open, and ability to access the outside. In addition, I want to just bring to your attention on this is that at each stair, we've extended the landing off of each stair to create a community space. So this is not part of the circulation of the stair. This is just a place to go out, make a phone call to step out of your unit, to go get fresh air, to view. It's a nice view downtown. And this is something that THAD has encouraged us to incorporate as many community gathering areas and open air areas within our project. As we look at the north and south elevation here, on the right is our south elevation. Beyond is the planting that I indicated that is along the fence line, and you are seeing a portion of this fence. A ground level retail with a canopy that actually provides some cover to the patrons who are sitting outside. You start to see the stair elevation here and those balconies, those community balconies that come off of it. With the carrying that same paint scheme around, so this is a CMU block building. We are looking at doing a stucco finish, a sand finish stucco finish, and keeping with the historic nature within the community, and then accenting that with the black frame doors and windows and railings. Here's a rendering which we've seen. We've been very conscientious about scaling this building to the community, also scaling it to an urban project along Nebraska. We feel this is the future of the development here, and we are encouraged to be able to be a part of this project and also maybe set the tone of what will happen along the Nebraska corridor, which we feel is a prime area for development for workforce housing and in the future market rate housing. As you see here, the retail area with the canopies and surrounded by the planters, and then also additional green planting along Nebraska to encourage that street front activation. There are 2 porches off of the units on the ground floor. These are enclosed porches, not to be accessed from the street front side, just for privacy and security. And here you see a little bit better the community balconies off the stairs that we indicated. Because the site is so tight, these community balconies in this roof terrace do serve as the amenity space for the inhabitants. And we're also considering the scooter storage and bike storage area as an amenity. So we are really trying to elevate the opportunity here for workforce housing and really take amenities that are in market rate housing and introduce them into this. This is the elevation from the west along St. Clair. We've been conscientious to screen the cars, to screen the dumpsters, provide the balcony access, the egress stair balcony, and also carry the finish, the CMU finish, the stucco finish around to this facade. Incorporating ground level lighting for security. We've hinted here that this would be an up and down light that is for wayfinding at points to the entrance, but also provides general security and ground level lighting. This is a view on Nebraska from the north facade. As I indicated, we carry the architecture around this building, same stucco finish, similar stair design with our balconies. We've also incorporated balconies off each unit and a unified balcony in the middle of the building. So this is a long balcony that exists right here in the middle that connects two units with a security divider in between. This harkens back to the historic nature of the design within Ybor. Also underneath these balconies are brackets. These are historically relevant or historically aligned brackets that really start to create that transition of architecture character onto the building. Back to our site plan just real quick. So I want to focus on the building itself. So at the ground level, we do have two one-bedroom units. These units are accessed from the parking side. These are all accessible units at grade. There are no step-ups or step-downs. And both of these units have the balcony or the porch outside that is accessed from that unit. Below those two units is the storage area indicated, and then retail. And all of this is accessed from the approved 20 spaces within the deck, which also has an ADA access or ADA parking space. As we move up into the building, we have a mixture of 1 and 2 bedroom units. All have exterior access through balconies. All have the appropriate ADA access. All have access to the community stair balconies. Both these floors are identical. The first elevated floor, the second floor, has larger balconies on the west side that is basically built out. It's the parking deck below, the parking cover below, and we've added those into our balconies.
Just something else to add is just all the units all have washer and dryers in all the units as well, so there's no common laundry facility.
Real quick, back to our roof terrace. So we are bringing the elevator up, and we're also bringing one stair up for access, for ADA access. So this will be ability to access this by all inhabitants of the building. We're creating a shaded area up there just for the summer sun. We know it just can't be up there. This has a great view. When you get to this elevation, you are really looking out over the historic district. You're looking out over the church. You're also looking out south towards downtown. We think this is going to be a great amenity on a small site. We're really encouraged to be able to provide this amenity. It's a small portion of the roof. As you say, it's about 10% of the roof. We are also screening the mechanical units, so those are not going to be visible from the street. Let me go back here. Just a quick section to kind of orientate you here. So we do have a central elevator that is going to access all the floors and provide ADA access to the roof. You're seeing on the right side of the screen here the balconies that are extended off the exterior of the building, metal balconies, vertical metal pickets, metal brackets. And then on the back side, as I indicated, we have a larger balcony off those first elevated units. We've taken this to a section quality, so we're looking at a CMU block building with a stucco finish. I will get to that product here in a second of what we're intending to use on that. We are we're looking at about a 10-foot floor to floor to give the smaller units a feeling of space within them. On the left is our cornice detail. You see this at the roof terrace canopy. So our canopy would be held back from this, but this is adding a level of detail and part of the fascia that gives a little bit of character to that corner. and you see how it's structured at this point. I mentioned that we have this recess area where we go from a lighter color stucco to a darker color. That's the recess here. It's a CMU block wall that is recessed roughly 8 inches at this point, and stucco coated. And then at the parapet, we're bringing the CMU up and we're coping that with a metal coping that ties into the roof terrace, or into the overall roof.
Something Ron's mentioned a couple times is that during the neighborhood, that's all frame. This is affordable. The intent is it's a long-term building, so it's meant to be here for a long term. And with all the hurricanes we've had recently, we elected to do the whole thing in masonry with the impact windows, just for that reason. This talks about the mechanical screening that Roger had brought up, where all the mechanical equipment screened on the roof, so you can't see it.
So stepping back, we talk about the historic character. So we have benchmark buildings within the district and within other historic districts. We use these for inspiration. This allowed us to align our conversations with the development team and everybody to coalesce around a central design. So this is a building outside of the district on the left and inside the district on the right. We looked at those for the fenestration, for the colors, for the stacking, the striation of the building, and ultimately the presence at a street level building. We also looked internal to Ybor and looked at the Columbia restaurant. Precedence was provided to us here that is an approved building that is built on the top right and also on the bottom with the balconies, the proportion of the building, the focus on retail. And we utilized this with the balconies, the railings, the brackets, the windows, the openings, the doors. This is approved built building within your district. We even got down into starting to get into the details here just to get you a more in-depth understanding. So we are looking at an aluminum-clad wood window. With that standard within the district, and we want to make that a dark bronze or black wood window along with the doors. There's an intent to do a blade sign to harken back to the historic nature. We have yet to design that, but there is a placeholder on our facade above retail that'll indicate the building name and be held off the building. We are looking forward to designing this, and I think this is something that's going to mean a lot to the developer to be able to incorporate that part of history on this building. I indicated the lighting within the renderings. This is the intent of a wall light that has up and down lighting. Some of our inspiration for our roof terrace, we looked at other similar type buildings. We don't want to go over the top here. We want to keep it really a sensible design that's easy to maintain and also not habitable, not something for a band or a concert or a jazz venue, though I think that would be nice. And then this is an inspiration of a roof trellis that has been done elsewhere in a cityscape that we really feel pairs well with the retail and the roof terrace combined. When we looked at our retail, we looked at increasing the glazing at the glass at the retail, incorporating a canopy that's supported off the building. Both of these are a reference to Ybor. Doors, so we're looking at a fixed pane, single opening door to be able to access the balconies at all units. So all units will have this type of door. We will work as we continue to design this building to understand what the muttons are, the mullions, and how to make that connected into the overall design of the project. As I mentioned, the fence, 6-foot fence with metal supports, the historic pavers, the 8x8 or the 8-inch CMU pavers, which will be out in front of retail. Bike racks. So we're looking to do 8 to 10 bike parking on site. We want to incorporate a landscape element that is attractive. Thad has selected this one, which we feel is just maybe an elevated cut above a typical bike rack, and having those out adjacent to parking that are visible to encourage bike riding, to encourage micro transportation. This is an idea. There's a wall pack here for bike charging. There's also charging stations for scooters. We just have dedicated a room and the opportunity to do this in the future. Mentioned our metal gates. This is a standard product, a manufactured product, so we know what we're going to be getting. This is not something that's made on site. CMU surround with stucco finish, protected with bollards. Stucco. So a name that's synonymous in the industry is Stowe. So Stowe Powerwall is consistent with, over CMU. You get a crack-resistant, waterproof membrane with a sand finish. This is the intent of how we finish the entire building. As Andy mentioned, the idea is this is going to be held for a long time by Urban Reworks. We want this building to stand up and be low maintenance and look as good as it does, day one as it does 10 years in. On our elevated decks, we look at using a product that we're quite familiar with. This is Ply Deck. It comes as a system product. It has an extended warranty on it. This goes over plywood, hence Ply Deck. So this would be the areas of the balconies and also the balcony on the west side. And then at the roof terrace, an enhanced version of that. This one allows to put tile over the top. This could be a wood look tile, could be a cement tile, but it allows you to increase the Ply Deck is your waterproof barrier, protecting your roof. Whatever finish you decide can go on top of it. We're looking at doing a white TPO roof. That's a standard of the industry. It's a membrane roof. It's all fully adhered, hurricane tested, Florida product approved. Also, low solar heat gain. At retail, we're looking to do a storefront system to really make that as open as possible with minimum columns. This is a YKK product, which is synonymous in the industry. This or something like this, which would have impact-resistant glazing incorporated. This is a section through our stair. You see the community balcony. The stair itself will be a steel stair with a precast tread, closed riser. And that's it.
So I think what we did was just, I think again, with Ron's help, we really went through and looked at all images throughout the community, selected products and things that we saw within the community, so that make sure we checked all the boxes. Currently, I personally own 2 historical buildings in the city of Tampa that I worked with Ron and Dennis on. So we really worked very, very hard as our team to make sure that everyone's very happy with this project. So thank you very much.
Good morning, Commissioner. Ron Vila, staff with Historic Preservation. You have the letters of support. There are 32 letters that were submitted as part of the CA process as well. As we look forward for new construction within the Ybor City Historic District, on pages 51 through 54, we look at the height and the width of buildings. We look at the width of the facades. We look at the setbacks. We look at the spacing, the alignment, the similarities and details, and the building materials. This illustration and this presentation checks all those boxes. With that said, that this is consistent with the Ybor City Design Guidelines, we reviewed the plans on January 8th, 2025. We have a list of conditions here. This was a very complete and thorough presentation. They have addressed all the issues on the bullet items that I have on page 3 that go into page 4, with a couple of additional discussion points. One was the depth of the balconies, as the balconies appeared to be applied. The doors on the rear, they open in, so somebody can have some ventilation in there, but you can't access the balconies on the rear elevation. It did show the fencing on the site plan. It's a minor detail, but the fencing was raw, it wasn't painted. The whole project is successfully done completely with everything illustrated on it. Maybe some discussion if the fence should be painted as well. Then on the north elevation, the lower level, the first level, there is no articulation on that wall plane. One of the renderings, they did have some planting there to kind of soften that as you approach Ybor City, coming from the north heading to the south, but maybe there's an opportunity to put some glazing or some additional articulation on that side. That completes my portion of the staff report, and I'm here to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Vila. Okay, anyone here from the public wishing to comment on this presentation, this case? Ms. Hedlund?
Good morning, Kim Hedlund, 1023 East 17th Avenue. I am actually here today representing the VM Ybor Neighborhood Association to express our conditional support for this proposed project. I do want to take a moment to thank the applicant and their exceptional responsiveness to the community. He has attended numerous meetings, talked to numerous stakeholders and meeting attendees, and really took input, particularly with the decision to reduce the height and work to sensitively incorporate 20 plus parking spaces onto the site ahead of today's meeting. So we really, truly appreciate that. This proposed building represents really the first significant new construction along our VM Ybor segment of Nebraska Avenue. It's a historic segment of Nebraska Avenue. It's actually, this site is right across from a gorgeous blonde brick church that is incredibly historic and anchors our community. Whatever gets built here will potentially set a precedent. Independent of use, independent of what it is, the form, the scale, the massing sets a precedent for kind of this north end of the historic district. For that reason, our board decided to write a letter. Hopefully it was included in your packet. I know it did come a bit late. For this reason, we're asking respectfully to conditionally approve this request with the condition that the owner and the applicant work with city staff to address a few elements of the project. First and foremost, the scale and the proportion of the windows and the fenestrations. And along with that, with the detailing, again, we're making these comments based on not all the information that was presented today. Secondly, the corner massing at the southeast corner between St. Clair and Nebraska. We're asking that the massing and the canopy detailing that staff work with the owner to refine that, to ensure that that corner, as you move through the district, is a high-profile corner. So if that could be further refined and the canopy detailing refined, that would be fantastic. Again, the balconies and the detailing of those balconies, working with staff to ensure that that detailing is appropriate, not only in materials, but also in scale and proportion. And then finally, the vertical height of the water table or relief that happens between the second and the third floor. Right now, along the Nebraska Avenue elevation, it jogs and works kind of up and down to accommodate the balconies. We believe historically that would be between the first and the second level. And we're just asking that the owner applicant work with city staff to address that. Again, we truly appreciate this project, but this is also a really important project for our section of Nebraska Avenue. Our community lives with this for the next 50 to 100 years, so we just want to make sure we get it right. So thanks for your consideration.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public wishing to comment? Okay, seeing none, we can ask some questions of the applicant.
No, I don't, actually.
Okay, we'll come back.
But I just want to comment that I truly appreciate the thoroughness of this presentation. We don't often get presentations that are this comprehensive and this complete. So I just thank you so much for that. It makes our job 6 times easier.
I do have questions, and I may come back with more, but and I agree with my colleague. I just wish these were bigger, because they're really hard to read. If you saw me, I was trying to get them with my phone, but that's my only complaint, other than the great presentation thus far. How high is the existing church? Do you have that elevation? To the peak of the roof, not the tower?
It's higher. Don't know the exact elevation.
Right.
It's 48.
I thought I saw that on one of these elevations.
I was looking, I did not see a height, so. In terms of detailing, do you have, and I was looking for this, I was thumbing through, trying to do it while you were presenting and pay attention. There are several things. The details for all the balconies, including the Juliets at the rear, I didn't see like a real detail for those. And the mechanical screening for the units on the roof. I didn't see anything about that other than the note that they were going to be screened. Do you have any details for those as well?
I think with with respect to the detailing of the balconies, we have a section in here, and you'll have to forgive me. Let's see if we can zoom in.
That's all.
No, I think in these two. So how do I zoom in? So this way you can see. The balconies are made out there. It's a prefab aluminum balcony and railing and the brackets. So we tried to show you.
Are the brackets metal as well? Because that was what it was very hard for me to understand what the brackets were doing.
Yes, that would be the case. It would be, yeah, it'd all be fabricated out of metal.
Okay. And then at the Juliet's, you don't have a section through the Juliet's, do you?
We do, we can show the back. To Ron's point, the Juliet balconies, the doors swing in, and they'd be made of the same material, that prefab black aluminum.
Are they actually deep enough to step out?
No, to be honest, no. But they're applied on the front, and that's why we swung the doors open. To Ron's point, we're providing ventilation. It's affordable housing. I have a client that's got big dreams, but I'm also trying to control budgets.
Understood.
Being the architect. So it's, we're trying to provide everything he wants, but we're also trying to manage the dollars to get there.
Well, I have a question about the rear balconies for the second floor units. Lovely that they get that much space, but is there some way to articulate both the second and the third floor so that there's more of that for both levels? Because honestly, that's what you would see in a historic structure. There's more equality than non-equality. Just whether or not that could be considered is something that I think should be reviewed again. A big issue for me overall in the project is I know that you're using the Stowe system for the stucco, right? I see no articulation of joints, whether they're expansion or control joints, and I know that they have the anti-crack feature in their system, but having seen this project used for decades now, there's still issues with cracking, and so is there another layer of detailing that's going to go into these drawings?
Yes, so we've purposely selected products that provide warranty. It's meant to be a long-term building. I think, as Kim said, going to be here for 50 to 100 years. So
yeah, the Stowe only has a 10-year warranty.
I understand.
Yeah.
When we're working with Stowe now on a 2-city block apartment complex in St. Pete. When we do start executing the drawings, we work with the rep, so all the detailing and stuff that you're talking about will start to get embedded into the drawings as we start developing the construction drawings. So it's just more detailing that has to occur.
And I do agree with Ms. Hedlund's comment about where the water table line is. I think that needs to be reviewed with historical precedent. And when we talk about precedent, when I'm looking for precedent, I'm actually looking for historical precedents, not something that we may have approved a year or even 10 years ago, because this is a preservation board. And I would question where that water table really should be. And again, when you're working with the Stowe representatives, how you detail that water table is going to be critical for your waterproofing down the line.
Waterproofing is huge in our company.
And I love the balconies on the stair towers. I just wonder if they need to be as deep as they are. They seem to be massive compared to some of the units. So I would just look at the scale, the balance of balconies, the projections. They're a great amenity. I just question their size. I would rather give those to the units so they could pop out and have private moments in their space, not in community.
No, respectfully, as we go through this and we really start developing construction documents and working through the pricing, some of those adjustments may occur.
Okay. In terms of the canopies, were there more details for the canopies at the ground floor? They seem to be just at the frames of the windows. Traditionally, you would see them have a little bit of overhang to help with the protection of the opening. Are they going to the outside mullions and that's it? The canopies on the ground floor?
Right now, they're illustrated.
At the corner of St. Clair and Nebraska. And I'm looking at that rendering, right?
Yeah, right now, we have them stopping at the edge of the opening. And this, again, as we get into the detailing of this, they may go beyond, several inches.
Okay, I'm gonna stop there and let my colleagues have their turns and they come back. Thank you.
I have no questions at the moment.
I have no questions at the moment either. Thank you.
Okay. Let's see, like on your building sections, everything's kind of grayed out for floor structures. Is this like wood framed floors and roof? And then you have like a plinth on the first floor between the parking?
Thad alluded in the beginning of this, it's an affordable housing project. So what we did was did a concrete, block masonry structure. All the inside floors are wood frame, trying to manage the cost. Obviously, when we get to the roof deck, we did that in frame. So we're trying to get a good building envelope that's a masonry construction, but the internal floor systems are wood.
Or wood?
Yes.
Even above the parking, first floor parking, or put a plinth there, or?
I'd have to defer to Roger on that. We're doing another one on the corner of North Boulevard in Columbus that we're doing, that's the wood.
Kind of a mixed. Yeah.
Wood, again, it's when you get to these affordable housing projects, it's all about the dollars. And just with respect to Susan, what she's saying about the balconies, it's a challenge of us trying to bring affordable product that looks like it's market rate, but trying to push the dollars down. So that was one of the concessions, Rich, when we developed it. It's a pricing thing. So it's the least expensive structure that we can get that's hurricane resistant.
And all your windows on the hurricane, everything's impact?
Yes.
Okay. Is this sprinklered?
No.
No?
No.
Okay. You're gonna run out of site area for that if you do. Okay. So I share my colleagues' concerns over the rear balconies. I think during your presentation, we heard that the owner wants to create places of rest where they go take a phone call, and all your balconies are a certain minimum size except for the rear. I look at the rear elevation, it's the most stoic and plain of all the elevations. I think that could go a long way to help you out with the full-size balconies out there. I do share my colleagues' concerns over the water table and also the VME board, that needs to be addressed and kind of initialized a little bit, like make it more continuous. I see what you're trying to do there by capturing the second floor balconies, but I think that's going to be more problematic.
It's a challenge we have. Just to correct myself, the building is sprinkled, so it is sprinkled. And what you got, we're trying to break down this mass.
Yeah.
So you can see where the ins and outs and playing with the water table, all of this is trying to break down that mass.
Yeah, and I think, I think in general, the mass of the project is nice. I've read in your previous documentation that you took off a floor and made it a more appropriate mass size for this area. I was a little disappointed that there weren't any references to the church across the street. That's your historical marker for this area. And I don't see many cues from that. And as my colleague was saying, we don't take our cues from newer structures that replicate historic. They are all taken from the historic, and that's your guiding icon right there across the street. So I would like to see a little bit more detail, or reference to that. But I think the project is really nice and balanced. I think it's a good scale. The comment about the canopies, wrapping that corner, and maybe that sign kind of moves to that corner as well. I think that could do a lot for helping to grab that corner and making that the primary focus of that area, and really play off the symmetry of the church on the other side of the street as well. So I think there's some opportunity there. I do like all the detail, the features that you've used here with just the material palette and how all that works. It's just a really well done, well thought out, and as Vivian said, it's something that very thorough presentation, and we're getting the information that we need here. One thing that we talked about stow a little bit. We didn't really see any stucco control joints. I think that's probably something you work with staff, and you're going to have a certain set limit of where those are going to occur. And that's going to help define, and maybe use more on that corner element to kind of pull that out a little bit and differentiate a little bit. So I think that's all that I have. Questions? There's a couple. Yeah, that's all I have for questions right now. And I kind of made some comments there. Anyone else with questions for the applicant? Okay.
I'm just reviewing. The wood fence that is proposed on the west and the north side, that is the only way that you're providing any screening to the parking. What's happening on the St. Clair side? I know the dumpster's on one side, but what's happening there? Is there any kind of privacy screening there or landscaping proposed?
We are intending to do landscaping in there, so I think the Rogers one, we're trying to screen the parking as much as we can. So, I mean, it's, when you're looking at the rendering, there's not a lot left to screen when you're looking at that particular elevation.
So, that's still under consideration? Adding something more to it, other than what's shown in this rendering?
I think we have to go through the process of selecting all the landscaping and stuff. I know Thad's heart, as you've heard, is very much invested in this project, so I know he's going to want to make it look right. You know, as to the exact specimens that are going to be selected, I can't speak to that, but I can tell you that it tends to be landscape. That, Susan, your viewpoint, what you're talking about, that we are going to want to try and screen that.
Okay. And then the privacy fence, which is wood currently, does it have any kind of man door on it? Does it return to the dumpster
We're not
enclosure?
trying to, no, because the fence is really on the lot line on two sides.
Right.
So it's right on the lot line, so we're really trying to keep like the people from the convenience store coming onto the property.
So there's no piece that turns right
No.
there on St. Clair?
No.
Because on the site plan, it looks like you do have an extension that comes down to the dumpster.
Yeah, it ties into the dumpster.
Except it's not.
Oh, you know what? I stand corrected. It does show it on the site plan, we just didn't illustrate it correctly on the.
So that's why I was asking, does it
No,
return
fair-
to the dumpster and
fair-
have
Fair question. It does turn.
so is the intent to return to the
Yes.
dumpster enclosure
Yes.
then?
Yeah, I just realized the rendering's not matching the site plan.
And it would come out and then go back up, to go back to the dumpster?
I think, Vivian, honestly, I think it would probably turn and die into the face of the dumpster right out at the front edge.
That would
I don't
be-
think it'd go to the street. I
That
think
would
we would.
definitely be preferable.
Yeah, then we'd get a little bit of buffer before you get to the fence. These are all, you guys are bringing up little subtle things that we just missed.
And this is a usable space for the tenants, right? I mean, this isn't just a swale and it's not going to be overplanted with trees. Is it a usable space for the tenants or not?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's grass.
It's grass. no
It's not
landscape.
currently part of a stormwater management
Not at this time,
piece.
no.
Okay.
I think dogs are gonna like it there.
I was
Right.
just thinking that.
Yeah, I have a dog.
It may be something to consider as you start to get tenants, whether or not
Yeah.
some of that needs to be enclosed further. The materiality, I understand budgets, and I understand you're trying to bring people in who are struggling to find accommodations that they can afford. I feel like of all the materials you've picked, this is like, I'm sorry, it's the cheapest thing that you could do. In terms of that privacy fence look, it's a look that I see in my neighborhood, right? And when I think of multifamily housing, it's like a step above. It has a different look. So this to me is very single-family residential. It's not multifamily residential. So I would ask, could there be reconsideration of the materiality and/or just the system?
The one thing I will tell you is I actually have the exact same fence in my office, which is historical. And actually, I had to replace it because it fell apart because I never sealed it the first time. So I put another fence up and I sealed it on both sides, actually stained it. So it looks like a nice wood stained fence. Again, it's currently at my office now. And it's just, again, you're trying to get the best solutions, but you're trying to manage the dollars. So,
Well, if that's the case, then I would encourage in future presentations to show what you intend, because right now what I'm seeing a single-family home behind the fence, and so the scale doesn't seem right. If it's to be stained, then that should be provided in the view that you're showing. Understanding that these are visioning boards more or less, because obviously you haven't taken it further in the design detailing, but right now it just doesn't help
Understood.
the argument. Let me just look through the laundry list. Did you look through the laundry list?
Can you comment on some of the rooftop trellis structures? Is that wood, aluminum?
I think it's meant to be aluminum. Aluminum.
Okay.
And the shade,
Excuse me.
the material for the shade?
The shade, I think, is it's a retractable fabric.
I think there's any other questions for the applicant?
I have one. Ms. Hedlund had remarked in her comments about the scale and the proportion of the windows. Am I assuming that the neighborhood association thinks the windows are too small?
Actually, if you look at the precedent.
You
Yes, that's been an ongoing conversation, I think, that can attest to regarding the initial presentation to the community and then the subsequent presentation. I think actually even in some of the precedent images shown in the presentation, you can see the difference in scale of windows between what this project has and some of the example images.
I think in general, maybe their point is, I think the east and west elevations, I think there's appropriate mass, but once you get to the side, the north and south,
yeah.
the windows seem dwarfed, a little small. I think that's probably there.
Or maybe put more of them.
Can you pull up an elevation of the north and south? Colored elevations. It's the mix, yeah.
The windows that we're using are like the 3x5 windows, are the most common size windows you see in multifamily
I'm
houses.
sorry, the size.
They're 3x5 windows. They're,
3x5.
yeah, they're again the most common size window size used in all multifamily in the U.S.
Yeah, I think maybe the neighborhood association's point is like these elevations are a little bit more bland than the other two. Maybe it's, there's more time there, and I think it's certain. We can see the water table being brought across from the front element to the rear.
I would agree with the windows. I think when you start to look at the floor plans of level 2 and level 3, you really question whether or not those paired windows are appropriate. And maybe there's an opportunity to add more, if not more, just a reconsideration of the arrangement. Understood that many people are used to not having a window in a kitchen these days, but historically you would have some window to allow daylight in. Right now, those paired windows are just really odd.
Except if you're looking at the other elevation, which goes with those units, that other elevation, the north and south elevations.
Can we go back to the north-south,
Are
please?
really
Thank you.
also providing a good bit of additional space, daylight into the space. And when you look at the floor plan, it's tough to look at reconfiguring those windows. That's a tough nut. And
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have ideas, but I'm not the
and it's not-
architect.
we can make the comment, but I think it's not our choice to design the building.
Understood. I can also recommend that there be reconsideration, and I think there are ways to do that. I understand that the plan is developed, but again, the plan is not ready for prime time. It doesn't have CDs ready to go, I assume.
And one thing, they kind of look like punched openings, but really there's head and cell detailing there too that's not showing up in the rendering.
Well,
or the wall sections.
I would question that too. I mean, what is the intent? Are these flush with the wall? Are they recessed to allow more shadow line?
Yeah, actually, on a masonry wall, the windows are actually set in the middle of the
Okay.
wall. Yeah,
So they will have a shadow line.
correct.
Will they have any kind of trim around them, or you're gonna leave them punched openings
I
straight?
think we're leaving them now as punched openings.
Okay. I think really reconsidering the water table line and adding stucco joints in, whether they're control or expansion joints, is really gonna help with these elevations. Right now, it's just so monolithic and there's not enough rhythm. When you look at a historic building, there's a lot more going on, even with stucco. It's just so flat right now.
So, maybe so we understand, with respects to the water table, are you trying to lower it, raise it? Just like trying to get some,
I think the water table is in the wrong spot. I do. I
You
think
think
it
it's what?
belongs on a lower elevation.
Lower
When you
elevation.
look at historic precedents, it's typically lower. This is
I
a
think-
3-story, not a 4 or 5-story. It needs to be lower.
when we looked at this, we played with that, and we're trying to scale a 3-story building to look as kind of as short as possible. So we played with that water table. When we had it at the lower elevation, it made the building feel taller. So I totally understand what you're saying, happy to take another look at it. It's just when we did it a couple different ways, we landed on this way, because again, the massing of the building is loaded on the street, so we're trying to be sensitive to the massing. That's why you're seeing the building step in a little bit at different locations and then playing with that water table. We're trying to break down the mass.
Just to clarify, on your wall sections, you call out window trim, head, jamb, sill, typical. It shows like some punch out there. Is that only, I'm not sure where this wall section is cut. You want to bring up the wall sections? On the left wall, go ahead.
Which one are you looking at?
The left one. You've got that keynote there applying to all the aluminum storefront. It's a wall section that has the water table on it. Because the CMU steps back. I'm just wondering where that,
Yeah, here's where you cover.
That detail's in the next page, detail 2. This is the one I said they need to be careful.
That's
yeah,
this
but
here.
right here, like window trim, head, jamb sill, typical.
Oh, yes.
That's occurring in the,
I thought I saw that somewhere.
this offset right here.
Currently it's showing 8 inches. We can discuss.
Maybe I was hopeful.
There's where you took the section.
Right, so that's on the rear elevation. So I guess,
I think I was
You're trying to understand where does the offset occur?
no, you've got a note on there that says, window trim, head, jamb sill, typical, and it shows a little bump out on the wall section. I can't, it's really small.
And Rich, is it this view that we're looking at?
Yeah,
this
it's on the
page?
left wall section.
Here?
Yep.
Yeah.
So that.
You're looking for that detail. Is that what you're
Well,
asking?
I'm trying to understand what we're doing with the window openings. We just talked about having punched openings for the aluminum, and then with no window treatment, and now I see,
I am going to respectfully say that that section is not necessarily correct. That window is going to be in the middle of the wall. It's not going to
okay,
be
so
on the
you're
outside
not,
face.
they're punched openings, so
Yes.
basically there's
Yes.
no trim detail on any window anywhere.
No.
So probably the elevations are, in renderings are more accurate. Yeah, I think
It
they're,
would get a little fussy if they did.
yeah. Okay. Do we have any other questions?
What is the roof materiality, not the TPO, but underneath the roof? What is the structural?
It's a wood trusses.
Wood trusses with plywood decking?
Yes,
sheeting?
ma'am.
And that's the same for the balconies, wood framed?
The balconies are
The balconies, are they also wood framed?
Those are the prefab aluminum. About.
Oh, they're all gonna be prefab aluminum?
Yes.
Okay, I thought I saw a note somewhere else that said something
There's
else.
there's a note on the section about that.
We probably need to spend a little bit more time on the wall sections.
I think in hindsight, I should have printed this at 11 by 17.
Yeah, it says aluminum,
Sorry.
aluminum steel balcony structure with concrete floor. And balcony structure painted black.
I was thinking of getting
So I'm wondering, are the floors opaque or are they metal grates? What are the balconies?
The balconies are meant to be a black aluminum. I think there's some discrepancy on my team as far as the actual sourcing of that product.
Yeah.
The ones I've normally seen are prefab and they're aluminum. Now, whether or not, there's a discussion that we're having about whether or not the step that you're stepping on has got an insert that gets filled with concrete.
Gotcha.
That's what we're talking
Okay, so
about
more
right
like
now.
a pan stair
Yeah.
system?
Yes.
You think that's probably where you're gonna go?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Wait, did he ever answer the question on the screen?
Materiality, no.
I never got my answer for the mechanical screening.
Oh.
The rooftop mechanical screening, what that intent is, and how high that is.
6 feet high, as far as, I mean, the intent is it's 6 feet high to screen the mechanical units behind it. The material would be a architectural, aluminum architectural louver. That's the intent.
It
Color
has to be a wind-rated product.
Right, yeah.
I suspect everything that you do would have to have that. So is it only to be a U configuration? You're not offering
It's meant to screen the units, yeah.
all the way
On
around, all
four
four
sides,
sides?
Yes.
Because this rendering doesn't show the fourth side.
Yeah, and I think that what we're talking about is, they're talking about screening at 3 sides from the rooftop deck. So you're not looking at the equipment from the rooftop deck. The houses that are in the backyard, would never see it. The issue we have is the serviceability. So if the AC guy needs to come in, service the unit, pull the unit, one side's left open for the serviceability, but it's screened on 3 sides from the public way that are on the roof deck. The people they'll never see that.
And you're gonna have more units up there than what you're showing.
Yeah, I
Only
really.
one row of 10.
I really take issue with that response. You can do a 4-sided enclosure, provide access, and provide screening to the residential. I think that the problem here is that the future holds more development, and more than likely you're gonna see more residential to that side than commercial. So, and I agree with my colleague that there aren't enough units there for the number of units you have, plus your retail space. Look at a solution that has the 4-sided with access. There are lots of examples in Tampa, so.
Happy to look at that.
And you may not need, second thought, you may not need to go that high either.
Right.
Yeah, these are gonna be
You know,
smaller
they're Smaller
units.
units, residential.
Normally they're about
high
4
or
feet
something.
tall.
You're protecting the units and you're
Yeah.
also visually screening them.
Correct.
All right,
See,
I think that's it for
We
me.
added cost and we took away cost.
It is a cost.
I have a question for staff. There was a note here about provide details on material at ground level of west elevation. Can you speak to that? Because I really don't know what that means.
So as you look through the parking area, there was some cladding on the lower level. As you get into that door into the commercial space, the illustrations that they showed today are different than what I saw. It looked like there was some kind of corrugated metal down there, and today it looks like it's all CMU covered with stucco. Can you get to that? Can you go to the rendering from the parking?
Oh, okay. You mean on the walls themselves?
On the wall, yeah.
Okay.
As you look through the parking on the wall itself,
Gotcha.
so that material has changed and it's consistent with
Okay.
what they have around the project.
So that's smooth.
And while we're on that the other rendering, not for Ron, those are planter beds. They're not fixed like at that corner. They're movable.
Around the deck in the front?
Retail, yeah.
The retail space? I think these are intended to be like planter boxes.
Planter boxes.
Yeah, because then you get an
benches
elevator
or
off the ground. It's a subtle way of trying to manage pedestrian influx into the patio or not.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Any other questions?
No, I think other than hardware, I think everything's been answered in hardware.
I think there's going to be a lot of staff involvement here.
Yeah,
Okay, we're going to go, since there are no more questions, we're going to go ahead and you have a few minutes if you want to summarize or rebut any of the questions that we talked about, then we're going to close the public hearing.
I think to Vivian's point, we really tried very hard to get everything that you guys were looking for in the proposal. I apologize, we missed a couple of things. But the intent was to achieve all the things that you guys are asking for. So I'll remind you, it's affordable housing. It's not even workforce, it's affordable. So we're trying to manage the dollars the best we can. It was a heavy lift just to go all masonry. Yeah, so I appreciate your approval. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to go ahead and close the public hearing and have discussion on the case in front of us.
Well, again, I'll just reiterate what I had previously commented on in the thoroughness of the presentation and the information, the amount of information provided not only in the paper but in your verbal comments. As this is a commercial structure on a road that desperately needs improvement, and particularly in that little neighborhood. The little church across the street is woefully deteriorating, and I don't feel that drawing references from the church into a commercial residential structure like this would be a particularly appropriate referential, but I think this will change that corridor immensely, and hopefully be a catalyst.
What?
Do you have
Comments? Discussion?
Not right now. Sorry, I'm going through my notes.
I do think the water table comments were appropriate and need to be looked at and adjusted, and the windows on, what was this elevation here?
This is St. Clair, so
St.
this
Clair.
is the
So
south.
those windows facing south of St. Clair, they seem a little out of proportion.
No comments at this time, thank you.
Yeah, I'll jump in and go back to you. I like the project. I think it's a great development for this area of town. I think it's going to do a lot of great things for the area. I want to commend the design team and the ownership group for their thorough presentation. I think this is a lot of good information. I think there's just a few things that need to be worked through here. I do share the concern over the water table, bringing that lower. Maybe that's a remnant. I know you guys said you looked at it, but maybe it's a remnant when this was additional stories and you're trying to like cut it in half. But and I do think on that corner element it might get a slightly differential treatment there. I agree with my colleagues' comments on the mechanical screening and four sides. I think the getting some of the control joints in there is going to help detail this a little bit better to see how that breaks down. You know, the north and south elevations are a little scarce. kind of drew in where, you know, you could have some more windows, but they're tiny. You're in a kitchen, you could add maybe a high one over the sink or one in the bathroom. So they're smaller windows. I'm not sure if it's going to do all that much for you. Being that, you know, it is affordable housing, I think there are certain stipulations that, you know, your main focus is really, you know, the Nebraska side and getting that corner element and carrying that through. And I think you kind of prioritize that corner to help invigorate the area, so I can appreciate that. I do agree with the comments on the fence. We should probably do a little bit nicer fence there to be able to detail that, paint that, and or stain to be able to finish that. And I still also have a little concern or heartburn over the size of the rear balconies. You've gone through great efforts everywhere else on the project to have full-size accessible balconies. You talk about going out on the stairwell, going out, you want to create community spaces, and it's those 4 units don't get the same as the others. So it's a little weird. But I think it's something that I think we're going to give you kind of some direction here and maybe work with staff to get these items fine-tuned to move ahead, because I think it is a really nice project, and that area desperately needs a little help up there as well.
So I agree with everything that all my colleagues have said. Understand that there is always a budget to work towards, but we also want to see something that flows within the context and is compatible and harmonious. And I do think there are a few things. Obviously, all the drawings need to get to the same level and correspond. The confusion with the detailing, the wall sections, and understand that this has been a long process for you all, and to get to this stage is tremendous, especially with as much information as we have. But we really need to see that get tightened up and move forward with staff with clear direction on intent, materials, and details. So pretty much aligned, I think, with comments.
Are you at a point where you think these items that we've talked about can be come back?
I'd like to see it come back, and I'll say why. Because I felt like when we started to discuss some things that we were uncomfortable with, we got a little pushback, and I think we need to assist staff on this one. That's my opinion.
Did you were going to comment?
Good morning, Ron Vila with Historic Preservation. I'd like to see if there's additional discussion and to see exactly where it goes from here. If there's an alternative date, I have that information for you. If there is a motion, either way, if it is going to get a final approval today, or if it's going to be delegated back to another public hearing, be strong on your motion so we know how to react and assist the applicant moving forward.
Mr. Vila, is this something we may do a preliminary approval today and just work on some of the details that we can itemize for them to work on, or just straight up continue?
You can narrow it down to preliminary approval. That allows usually some funding to be sought at that time. You know, we worked with them hand in hand very closely moving forward with this project. We removed a floor. We worked on additional variances that were removed. They were very easy to work with. Just put together a motion and kind of see where it goes. If you feel that staff has the ability to approve it administratively, you know, it could be delegated to us as well.
I think we need to take into consideration that most of the time with development projects, time is of the essence. And adding additional time to their schedule may compound their financing difficulties. And I think if I did not perceive that any of the comments that have been made during this discussion were ones that are beyond the capability of the staff to deal with.
I agree with the comment in terms of the timeline. I think the preliminary approval process is one that's workable here, which would allow them to continue to vet and price out solutions and perhaps start to buy out materials and trades. But I do feel like we need to see this again. This is an important piece of the puzzle. It is a corner condition to the historic district, which is always one that tends to have more precedent setting, and we want to get it right.
Well, it's I think a preliminary approval with a set number of conditions to give them to work on, so that we can keep the process moving forward would be good. I think I have a list here of items if we do a motion. You have a list?
I have a list of items. I think I caught everybody's.
I do not have a list, so.
I think I caught everybody's notes and what was said during the presentation and follow-up questions. Oh, I need a date, please, thank you.
So the next available public hearing date is February 27th. They would have to get all their exhibits and final drawings into us by February 7th. So it's an accelerated timeline.
Do you want to ask them if they can meet that, or?
You need to open up the hearing
Okay.
again.
Okay. Move to open the public hearing.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say
Aye.
aye. Okay, there's been a date to move in a direction of preliminary approval, which basically means most of your project is approved. We have I don't know, probably 10 items on a list to go through. Would the applicant be able to have their exhibits submitted back into city by February 7th to make the February 27th public hearing?
I mean, the Sandy Doman again with Design Styles. We started off as a 4-story. I've worked with Ron quite diligently on a number of projects. I'm 100% positive I can satisfy your concerns. We respectfully, our clients, it's been quite a journey. The subtleties of things that you guys are talking about are easily achieved. I think to Vivian's point, it's just a time thing. It's causing us to have to go, everything that you've said, seen, and asked for has been rendered. So that our clients spent a significant amount of money to get to this journey for affordable housing. The stuff that you're talking about can easily be adjusted with Ron. I've done it many, many times before, that I think it could get worked out and adjusted. So I'd love to get the approval, and then we could just work with Ron on the fine tuning of this, making some balconies deeper, some shallower, putting a screen around the AC unit, extending the fence, adjusting the water table. These are all things that could be done easily. It's just the sheer cost of going through it and re-rendering and recreating this entire presentation can it be done? Yes. It's just going to cost a lot more money to get it approved. That's all. I'm just being honest with you.
Let me ask you a question. One of the comments is going to be the window placements on the north and south elevations. What's the general feeling on that?
Those are things that we can work with Ron. Again, I've worked with him a long, long time, and it's just respectfully working with him. Everything that we design, we have with furniture. So as you guys go through and you want to put more windows in the building, I don't have a problem with that. It's just understanding where we're going to put more windows. And it's just working through that, that's all. I think you guys talked about putting a window over the sink or another window in the bedroom. I don't have any problem with that. It's just as you look at the furniture, is going to go, where are we putting more windows?
That's tricky.
Colin Rice for the applicant. Taking all the feedback in stride, really appreciate the thorough investment in this project. May we have just 1 minute in the hallway to discuss? This is a pretty big junction for us, so we just want a brief moment. I'm trying to be respectful of your time, but we'd appreciate that.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. Would you like to move for a 5-minute recess?
Yes.
I move for a 5-minute recess.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Opposed? Okay, we're back in session now. I think we were asking questions. Does the applicant have some preferred direction to go in here?
We do. Colin Rice again, 1000 West Cass for the applicant. And appreciate you granting us a couple of moments to huddle in the hallway. I want to zoom out a little bit and contextualize where we are today and this ask. This is a pretty critical juncture for the success of this project for a number of reasons. This is kind of, from a coming to fruition perspective, somewhat abated by the pendency of this vote. It could, I don't mean to hyperbolize, it could imperil the project's overall viability to continue for a month. Apart from the additional time and investment in creating these revisions at this stage, there are several funding components that may not be available to us. This has been a privately funded venture so far. There's just a lot to consider. I want you to have a full understanding of the importance of what we're considering here today. We have absolutely full commitment to work with Ron and his staff. We've taken to heart everybody's commentary today. We're confident that these things can be resolved to the city's satisfaction, to the neighborhood's satisfaction. We'll work with Ms. Hudland. We understand what has been raised here. And, you know, officer of the court under oath, I pledge that we will do our absolute best to bring that to a close. It's important for the board to understand how critical we are today. Resetting to February could imperil the whole thing. This corridor desperately needs the investment, and we're just respectfully requesting your understanding of the full situation here.
Thank you for your feedback. We're going to go ahead and close the public hearing again, and we can have discussion on the case of how the commissioners want to move forward here. One thing that I would like to remind the commissioners is that this case was originally scheduled for last year in December, and that got continued to this meeting today. So, I think that speaks for the timeline as well and should be taken into consideration. That being said, I think there's a number of concerns here dealing with the water table, the mechanical screening, the additional units on the roof, the fencing, the corner canopy, the control joints, the windows. The biggest concern that I have, and I'll just speak first, is if we're going to add windows, that kind of changes the material representation of the project. I think what we're talking about is maybe some small windows in the kitchen to the bathroom, so it could be a minor impact for the north and south elevations. Moving the water table could be a significant change, but I have full faith and confidence in city staff to work through this. So I'm open to the pleasure of my fellow commissioners of how to proceed here. I think in general the project's pretty much there with a few minor things that we could work through and make it a better project for everyone, including in the community.
I'm confident that staff get to work through these issues as well, as long as we give them a detailed list of conditions. So I'm for preliminary approval.
Preliminary approval? This preliminary approval would require them to come back for final approval.
I'm not so sure that adding little windows above the kitchen would improve those elevations one iota. I mean, to add another tiny little punched window on that elevation, and now because the elevations are very symmetrical, and I might add that no one sees a building in elevation ever. Only we do when we look at drawings. In the real world, people are going to look at it as it's been represented in the renderings, which actually does bring a different perspective to the way that one perceives an elevation. And these are the minor elevations of the building to boot. So on the south side, it's facing another commercial property that's already there. And on the north side, it's facing another commercial property that's on the opposite side of the street. And I am happy to stay with the window configuration as they have presented it. And I would support a final approval with conditions.
Just curious, if they update the site plan, does that mean that they have to come back for a preliminary, or can it be conditional if they update it?
They either get a pre-approved or preliminary approval, or a final approval with or without conditions, or a continuation, or even a denial. Those are their options.
But would they have to come back if they update the
Preliminary approval or continuation?
If we continue them or give them the pre-approval, they would have to, yeah. Sorry, I forget.
No? I think it's your turn.
I have nothing to add to the conversation. I can do whatever, but I do think there needs to be a detailed list. It needs to be very, very clear. And I do think the window elevations on St. Clair do need to be revisited. I feel that because it is a corner condition, and you will see that as you're driving and or walking, there needs to be some reconsideration for that. The north side, because there is another lot to the north of that could be built out, that's not as critical in my opinion, but I do think the south elevation does. Yeah. And there are about 10 items on the list that I took from everybody's comments.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, about 8, so yeah.
So I'm ready to move unless somebody else wants to make a motion. If not, I'll go ahead. I move to grant a certificate of appropriateness for the drawings and documents presented at this public hearing in BLC 25-00000015 for the property located at 2914 North Nebraska Avenue with the following conditions: that the location of the water table at the second, third floor line be reconsidered and distributed to the separation between the first and the second floor, that stucco control joints and or expansion joints be developed and defined for all elevations, that appropriate fencing and or buffering elements be added to the St. Clair elevation, which is the south elevation, to ensure that the parking area beneath is screened from view, whether one is driving or walking by. That the balconies at the rear, both on the second and the third floor, be revisited and reconsidered in terms of their size and configuration, so that the third floor are more usable. That the windows at the south elevation, which is the St. Clair Street elevation, be revisited and others added and or reconfigured to be more in line with the historic context. That the fencing material, which is currently wood opaque, be reconsidered, either the materiality and or its design. That all wall sections be developed and details thoroughly vetted for all conditions, including the storefront, the punched openings, the balconies, the canopies, the parakeet cap, and the canopies and the trellis piece at the roof. So I got that. Because
Oh, a few more,
which were the others you had?
if you want to add them to your list. That the corner canopy at the retail space be reevaluated to be continuous at that corner.
Oh, yes. And that the canopy at the retail space on the ground floor at the corner of St. Clair and Nebraska be reconsidered to be a continuous canopy so that it turns the corner. Oh, and one other, to revisit the location of the building signage to be more forward of the corner in consideration. Because
Mechanical screens, door side.
oh, yes, and then mechanical screening, thank you. And one last thing, and that the mechanical screening of the units on the rooftop be four-sided, and that all units located appropriately on the roof plan. Because based upon the finding of fact, the proposed project is consistent with the Ybor City design guidelines of the City of Tampa for the following reasons: that the height and the width of the new buildings are consistent, that the setbacks are maintained, that the facade elements are in alignment, and that there's similarity of form.
I second.
Okay. For the applicant, there's been a number of conditions placed on this approval with conditions. Can the applicant acknowledge that they are in agreement with these conditions?
Colin Rice for the applicant, we agree.
Okay. So acknowledged. All in favor of said motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay.
Move to enter into the record list. Move to receive and file submitted documents and exhibits that have been presented in this hearing.
Second.
All in favor of said motion, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Seeing no more business in front of us, we are adjourned for the day. Thank you all for your help today.